Hey everybody, kind of wanted to film this because this is a kind of a rare thing I've never really seen before. This is a 2000 Dodge 24 valve Cummins, and what it's doing right now is this is his plow truck, so he doesn't use it all year round. He just lets it sit most of the year, and then when he needs to plow, then it, usually I work on it right about this time of year every year. Anyways, what it's doing is it's hard or no start hot starting. So when it's warm, when it's cold it starts fine. When it's warm it does not want to start. So basically, when you work on anything that is pre-common rail, the first thing you're going to look at is fuel pressure, which is what this red hose and this fuel pressure gauge is. Now, a lift pump failure on a VP truck will usually cause smoke and carrying on and coughing and stuff when it's cold starting. So that was not the issue. And usually a no start or hard start when hot is usually a vp44 pump issue, either a failure or whatever issue, whether it's the board in it, in the top mount or in the top computer chip deal on top of the pump is burnout, or the bore for the swash plate inside the pump is scored. Basically, when the fuel warms up, it does not want to build enough pressure to restart. I'm going to show you guys what I did, but I'm going to first tell you that this has basically been a dealership baby since new. I think it's fall through a frozen lake once. I don't know how many motors it's had, but it's at least two. I think it ingested water when it fell through or whatever. But and one of the things that Dodge recalled back in the day was they used to have a vane pump down here, driver's side rotary vane pump that was driver's side lower part of the block that would lift fuel up to here, up to your injection pump. And one of the things that they did like a technical service bulletin on was to move that pump back into the tank and swap it to a different pump from I think it was originally a Carter. Don't quote me on that, but when they did that, that was like a band-aid fix. They didn't ever think this through. Apparently they didn't think this through very well. So on this truck, they actually added, you can see this yellow wire. They actually spliced in, put a fuse here, added an old style relay up here to move the pump to the back in the tank. And when they did that, they didn't, I don't know what they tapped into in the fuse panel to get that, because on these trucks the pump doesn't run 100% of the time. It's not key on hot all the time. It's supposed to just kick the pump on after you bump the key, but this one kicks the pump on for 5 seconds when you key it on, sometimes longer. And I'll show you what it's doing. I don't have the key. I guess I'll tell you what it's doing. So when you go to key this thing on, the hard hot start part is because it's building 20 psi with key on. And I would show you that, but apparently I took the keys in and I don't really want to go unlock the house to get it. So it's building 20 psi. Well, I read on here, which I'd never heard before, that anything over 10 psi on cranking will make a VP hard start, which I thought was kind of a joke. I'd never heard such a thing before in my life, but I tried to figure it out. I got it to where it would hard start. I took the fuse out of this wire here for this relay, started it up, watched the gauge, or went to try to start it up, watched the gauge drop, and once I got to about 12 it started. Well, this was trying to continually prime 20 psi, so what I did to fix this issue is I took the wire that they have tapped into here, and this would be the same for like a FAS, if you got a Raptor, an Air Dog, anything else that doesn't have a setup like this is trying to continually force 15 pounds or more through this injection pump, and it's not wanting to start because of it. I know a lot of people might have just threw a vp44 on, but it wouldn't have fixed it. He said that there's been 4 pumps put on this. I've never put one on, but I assume that maybe this has been the issue for a while, because he said it would do this fairly every other year or so. But anyways, what I did was took the wire that they have, put it into pin 30 of a relay. I got a relay and a 5-pin pigtail for it. I took the outgoing, the normally closed, which would be 87A pin, and ran it out to the power to this relay over here. So it's controlling this yellow wire here that's going to this relay over here. And I'll draw up something so you guys can see it with your eyes or whatever. But then I run the coil side of this relay, which is the control side, one to ground and the other one to, I think you can see it right there, this brown wire here. This brown wire goes down to the starter. It's your signal wire for your starter. So what that does is when you crank it, if it's attempting to push 20 psi the whole time, it'll crank 2 or 3 times, draw the pressure down to where it needs to, and then it'll start, and then it'll feed pressure continuously after that. So what they call this is a delay relay or an interrupter relay. This was very hard to find information, but I ended up reading back quite a few years on a couple forums to figure this out. And like I said, at first I thought it was kind of a joke, but testing this by unplugging the pump and starting it starts beautiful. So I'd recommend looking into this. If you have high cranking pressure, it may be the cause for your hard start. This truck actually would still start, but it would just crank and crank and crank it. And on a normal stock setup, the ECM or PCM on these Dodges are supposed to modulate how much voltage goes to the pump so that it doesn't prime more than so often. So I don't know what wire they have tapped into here, but like I said, this was done by the dealer. So I wish I could show you guys, but I don't have a key. Basically what it does is it primes up to 20 psi when the key is on, and then when you go to start it, it'll crank and the pressure will fall to about 10 or 12, start, and then it'll start, and then it'll prime back up to about 15 or 16. I hope this helps somebody, because I spent a considerable amount of time reading about this and kind of trying to find out what it was, because I didn't believe that it was the pump, because it didn't show signs of that the pump was bad. It doesn't have codes. It doesn't have it's not hard starting, like the pouring the water trick on the injection pump doesn't really, it didn't do anything. Not only that, the fuel wasn't actually hot. So you know, normally on these 24 valves, if the fuel's hot, then it'll start to break apart the solder inside the injection pump computer section. So when I pulled the test port out, it was actually, the fuel actually wasn't even warm. So when it was hard starting, it wasn't because the fuel was hot, is what I guess I'm trying to say. So I hope this helps somebody. I will go ahead and throw up a schematic of how I wired it up right now, I guess, and then I'll put it in the video. It'll be real kind of layman's terms, but it should help somebody up. Basically, it's a normally closed relay that lets it go all the way through it, and then when you go to hit the ignition, it'll pull it away to pin 87, and the 87 doesn't go to anything. It just disconnects it. So I'll go ahead and get you guys a picture. I'll put this video up. Hopefully it helps somebody that may have aftermarket, or even if it was like a service bulletin truck like this one that somehow has, you know, lasted this long. These trucks are getting older, so there's a lot of repairs that have been done that aren't maybe kosher, or maybe you know, off the books or whatever by the Dodge dealer. So I appreciate you guys watching. Like I said, hopefully this helps some people. Talk to you later.